Okay, so the second video, the hunter video, got flagged by YouTube's algorithm for being like repetitive content. Was that they actually said it's against violation to spam repetitive or unwanted content, which was a huge blow to my pride. Like, goddamn, that's ruthless. Okay, so to get around, I appealed that. Mage and druid are fine. Apparently, if mage goes down, I don't know. I've appealed hunter. I don't know if it's going to come back. I don't know if anybody can see it right now. So what I'm going to do to get around this, I've already recorded paladin and priest, and I'm just going to put those. I'm going to do one giant super video. I'm going to just jam those videos in at the start. I'm not going to re-record them because that's stupid, so they're going to have their see you in the next video, and there's just going to be more video after it. Like an idiot. And then I'm just going to record right now a giant super thing of running through rogue all the way through the neutrals. I'm going to try to do it fast, but this is probably going to be a long video. If you get scared off, that's fine. Whatever. And here's a cat, so hopefully... I think it's because all the card art just kind of looks the same, and I'm just like scrolling through colored rectangles. So hopefully having a big cat for like a minute or two at the beginning is going to... This is Luna from like back when we got her. Like this is like years ago. She's just chilling, sleeping on this table, which is more cluttered now. But that Baja looks good too. I can go for some Baja. Yeah, so let's just get into it. I'm just gonna edit in the 2 I already recorded and then do a giant supercut. It's gonna be like a 20-hour movie, and I hope you enjoy it. But I'm gonna try to get through it real quickly to compensate. Paladin. Okay, so heal paladin has been something that I've been trying to push for a while. And it hasn't worked because it's really hard to actually hurt yourself fast enough in the early game to then heal yourself fast enough to then capitalize on being a heal paladin. It's a very awkward archetype. And they printed a lot of ways to hurt yourself. So we have Crystallizer, and then we have now Bloodclaw and High Priest Thegel. And these might actually make the deck a real deck. So Bloodclaw, 1 mana, 2/2 weapon, deal 5 to your hero. Seems like a pretty big downside, except it's actually an upside because, again, you're trying to take a ton of damage so you can heal that damage. Obviously a very risky strategy, but Paladin healing is still pretty strong. And a 1 mana, 2/2 weapon is quite good. So this should, if it's a deck, this is obviously going in the deck, and it should be quite good in the deck. Flashlight, same sort of thing. 2 mana heal 4, draw a card. 2 mana heal 4 is pretty inefficient, but healing that draws a card is pretty. Have we had that? Yeah, we've had the whatever the 8 mana spell is. Yeah, the point is healing that draws a card like offsets a lot of the drawback of healing, which is that you're just making your number go up, and you're not actually influencing the board, and you're generally losing value when you heal. So this negates that. It's not a lot of healing. It's a little expensive, even at 2 mana. But you don't lose value, so you can do what you're trying to do more efficiently. This might be like a 30th card in Heal Paladin kind of situation. Immortal Prelate, this card is the one I'm most excited to try for the entire expansion. So it's Kingsbane, but it's a minion. So you can have 2 copies of this in your deck, which is both good and bad. It increases the consistency of drawing it, but it also means that you're going to have 2 different kind of buff trees. They're not going to be buffed equally. And if you stack all the buffs on one to make one giant, who's a good girl, then you, your other one will be dinky. So you do kind of have to buff them evenly, which makes it a little awkward, depending on how you draw things. You could just run one of... You can tutor this out with Crystology until you buff its attack, and then I don't think that will work. At least it shouldn't. And obviously Silence just annihilates it, just straight up. But you can... I think if you Baleful Banker it, you're going to get like a fresh copy, I'm pretty sure. Which would help in like fatigue games, but not help in any other situation. So I don't think you want to Banker it. I also don't think you want to Zola it. But I think... I know if you Faceless it, that will obviously just create... a true copy with all the buffs. So if you want to play around silence, you know, you can always have the faceless around after you. You'd have to get some buffs on first, so it's a little bit awkward to find the mana to do all that. You're probably eventually going to get one or two of these sounds. But if silence isn't like super prevalent, or at least more prevalent than it is, then you might get away with it and have a pretty cool time. I don't know. It's a very exciting card, but silence is just so fucking powerful and oppressive, and is still in a lot of decks that it kind of ruins it. And we're actually getting a new silence card coming up in the neutrals, which will punish you from Spike Ridge Steeding this, which is like your best buff. So that's cool. High Priest Thekel. Kind of annoying this is a legendary, but since we do have Crystallizer and Blood Claw, I'll let it slide. Extremely powerful effect. Definitely enables the heal Paladin, like all on its own. If you just draw this, like you're good to go for the rest of the game. You have plenty of room to heal. Doesn't cost you any life, and it's a Spider Tank. Awesome card. Timeout. Everyone compares this to Ice Block, and it's so fucking aggravating because it's clearly evasion. Like, this is literally evasion in Paladin. It's not Ice Block. Ice Block, you play it, and then you forget about it until you're gonna die, and then it saves you, and that's Ice Block. Evasion, you play it, the turn you want them to not deal more than damage, more than like one attack of damage to kill you. That sentence was so fucking butchered. You play Evasion the turn you're about to die, and you have to time it, which makes it sort of awkward to use. But Evasion sees a lot of play, especially in Wild Kingsbane Rogue. Evasion's one of the better cards in the deck. You can just cheese wins by timing your Evasion properly. They can't kill you, and then you heal up with Kingsbane, and you're on easy street. So this is a similar sort of thing. The downside over Evasion is that sometimes Evasion can carry over multiple turns. Very, very rarely, but sometimes. And also this costs more. And also you don't have a giant lifesteal weapon. But they can't kill you at all. So Evasion you can't use at like 1 HP, probably, barring extreme circumstances. Because they'll just hit you one time and then it triggers, but you're already dead. This, they just straight up, it doesn't, like, they just don't do anything. Like, you're just immune, and that's that. Also, it's on your turn it starts. So you can pair it with weapons to heal up. So, like, True Silvers or the big Uther Hero lifesteal weapon thing. This is not a card you put into any deck. This is a card you put into combo decks or decks that have a very specific plan for how to stall out the game and then leverage that extra time into grinding their opponent out or doing something really broken. So I imagine, like in Wild with the Death Knight OTK, this will probably make some waves over there, just because it's like being able to just say no, you just can't kill me for 2 more turns. Sorry, you just can't do it. And just basically skip your opponent's turn twice with a combo deck is just so fucking broken. That's why Freeze Mage was so oppressive forever. Like, right up until they rotated it, it was so fucking oppressive because you're just skipping your opponent's turns, doing uninteractive shit, and then killing them, and this just lets Paladin do that. So this card's obviously amazing. It's not as good as Ice Block, but it's obviously amazing. Spirit of the Tiger, summon tigers equal to the cost of the spells. This card's really good. I think this is one of the few spirits where you can get away not using it on both turns. Like, if you just play this, and then, like, next turn you Blessings the Kings it or something, I think you're pretty happy. Like, if you pair this with any reasonably sized spell, you're kind of getting a garbage body that makes up for the mana you spent on this initially, and you still have this sticking around, especially if you buffed it. Like, if this is a 4/7 and you summon a 4/4, I think this is probably the best spirit. Maybe not the best, but it's definitely up there. I think it might be the best spirit, actually. This card should do things, especially if, like, buff Immortal Prelate Paladin is a thing. Although you don't, it's weird because you don't really want to be spending your buffs on other things. So you wouldn't buff this, but even if you buff the Prelate, you're still getting extra bodies. I don't know. Very cool card. I'd be surprised if this doesn't do anything. I'd actually be pretty surprised. Zandalari Templar is like Hooked Reaver, but for healing. It's bigger, but it's harder to trigger, even with all this self-damage stuff. So Paladin, you have to damage yourself a bunch and then heal yourself a bunch. Warlock, you just have to damage yourself a bunch, and your hero power does that for you. So this is nowhere near as good as Hooked Reaver. But if Heal Paladin is going to be a thing, I think this is obviously an auto-include. And it should be quite powerful. 8/8s are big. Taunt's good. Frocky Battle Axe seems really bad. Seems really bad and slow. You have to hit something with 2 or less health to overkill, which is a recurring theme. Overkill is honestly just like super disappointing in this set. Like it's a fine mechanic, but why is it the only mechanic we're getting? Only overkill? Spirits aren't a new mechanic. Don't pull that shit on me. All we got is overkill this time, and overkill's like super underwhelming on most of these cards. It's just really hard to trigger. It needs to go on high attack shit, and they're like, yeah, 3/3, whatever. The buff is huge, but it's really hard to do it, and like, you'd need multiple overkills already lined up, because they're not going to play into it, right? You'd need multiple X2s on the board, and then not remove them, while you slowly battle axe them all down to get all the buffs. So the cards just seem super bad. Play the legendary weapon instead. A new challenger, very intriguing. So as I went over in the first video, the Paladin Discover a 6th cost is extremely good, especially when you add the 2 keywords. Like even the bad 6 drops get really good when you give them Taunt and Divine Shield. Like really, like Spark Drill is basically unplayable. And then you get it off of this, and it's so fucking good. It's just like 5/1 Divine Shield Taunt Rush. When it dies, you get more stuff. Like, yeah, that seems like a good use of 7 mana, honestly. I wouldn't complain. I don't know if you find a room, because it's just kind of a big 7-drop. It is a spell, so it discounts Shrivala, and it triggers Spirit of the Tiger. So maybe you just find room for it somewhere in there. But, I don't know. It's definitely just as a 7-drop. Like, this is just a great card, I think. It's just, the question is, where are you just going to put a big beefy 7-drop defensive minion? And then we have Shrivala, one of the most hyped cards in the expansion, because it was one of the first spoiled. I think it is quite good. It's kind of hard to discount it. But if you get it down, even to like 7 or lower, I'm pretty happy spending that for this effect. And then there's, the meme OTK stuff. I don't know. I think there's everything that could be said about this card has been said because it was spoiled so early. I don't think it's as crazy as people seem to think it is. It's kind of hard to play like 20 mana worth of spells. Even in a control paladin with a lot of spells. It's sort of hard to spend a lot. But maybe, I don't know, maybe in like a buff deck, you've got like Blessings of King, you've got Spikewood Steed. You cast each of those twice and you're already there. So, I don't know. I hope I open it. I'm interested to try it out. I hope it's good. It's certainly a cool design. But I don't think it's like the greatest thing ever. Yeah, that's Paladin. Nothing too crazy here. Kind of underwhelming, honestly, because Paladin has sort of needed help. They're not really doing it much at the moment. But hopefully this thing that it gets stealthed and instantly loses the game is going to be really good. Priced. Regenerate, 0 mana, heal 3. 0 mana spells are pretty good. And healing spells are pretty good, especially in Priest, for both of those things. So like this makes like Cleric, Acolyte, Pyromancer shenanigans a bit easier to do. It works well with Akanai, and we can see off to the side we have a new Akanai coming as well. So it's not like an amazing card, but it's the kind of thing that it's just a cool tool in Priest's toolbox, and it wouldn't be too surprising if it slips into some decks here and there. Spirit of the Dead. This is probably the most interesting spirit, but I don't know if it's actually any good. It's really hard to kill off your own stuff. It's like it almost works with cloning gallery, but not quite right. It's just not quite right. There's no like Spirit of the Dead cloning gallery Spirit Lash combo, unfortunately. I don't know. I don't know what you do with this. Obviously, if you can get like 1 mana Velens and Maligoses and stuff, then you just assemble your nice little clean victory thing and you win the game and you celebrate. But it's like, how do you actually do that? It sounds nice. I just don't see how you do it. But the effect is so strong and cool that like I want it to work. So we'll see. We'll see. I have not been able to figure out a good way to use this, but there's a lot of people playing the game. I'm sure somebody will do something cool, and we'll all see it on release day. I just don't know if it'll actually be good or not. Akanai Phantasm, just a raptor with the Akanai effect for 1 turn. Super cool, super reasonable. Play with stuff like Regenerate, play a 3/2, kill their 2-drop, and yeah, it's just good. It's just a good card. I mean, this style of deck, like Akanai itself, hasn't seen a lot of play recently. And the downside, so Akanai Circle was like the classic combo. If you Akanai Circle with this, it's cheaper, but you're discarding both of the cards. Unlike the 3/5, this doesn't survive, obviously. So, kind of a drawback there, but obviously it's cheaper. And if you have redundancy, then you can fit in more healing as damage type synergies, and they'll happen more often, and you can do cool things more often. It also obviously works with the hero power. So like turn 4, play a 3/2 and deal 2 to something. As far as like a bad scenario goes, it's pretty reasonable, honestly. There's a lot of times where you'd be happy doing that, or at least having the option to do that. So I don't know what deck this fits in at the moment, but it might be enough to justify new decks going forward, honestly. Seance, it's Convert, but strictly better because Convert was bad, and they realized it was bad, so they just reprinted it, but better, instead of fixing Convert. That's fine. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty cool card. It's pretty flexible. You can do some interesting things with it. You can copy Amara, you can copy Velen, you can copy Thorison, you can copy whatever you want. You can copy whatever you want. You can do like a Fatigue deck in Wild with Oracles and Archbishops to just really, really beat them, even though Archbishop on his own already does it. I don't know. It's one of those cards that's like super open-ended. It's like it's a bounce effect, but you keep it on the board. So it's Zola, basically. It's just Zola. Everything you could do with Zola, you can do with Seance, except now it's a spell and it's 1 cheaper. So that's cool. Sand Drudge, I love this card. I love everything about this card. The art's awesome, name's awesome, effect's awesome. Just 3 mana, 3/3. Cast a spell, get taunts. It's kind of a Violet Teacher effect, obviously. And you could, if only Priest had a way to like weaponize their tokens, then you could actually have a really nasty token Priest with those 2 cards and a bunch of cheap spells. But unfortunately, we don't. Or fortunately, maybe, I guess. I don't know. We don't have that at the moment. But even so, like a Divine Spirit type decks, one of the things you can run into as an issue is like you're playing your Radiance, you're cycling shields and stuff and trying to develop your stuff, and then your opponent's just like trading off your things or lowering their health and making it hard to really ramp them up. This just puts annoying little 1/1s in the way. So if you're going for that kind of deck, I think you could look at this as just like a reasonable 3-drop. It rewards what you already want to be doing, which is casting lots of spells, and it makes it more difficult for your opponent to kill you and more difficult for them to disrupt all your little combo minions that you're pulling together. So it's a very cool card. It's not like a star player. I don't think it's going to make any massive impact, but it's a cool card. I hope it finds a home somewhere. Surrender to Madness. This card is interesting. This card is interesting. See, this is one of those cards that I really wish they'd fucking stop making, because this is either unplayably bad or the most dangerously obscene card in the entire set. Like, there's literally no middle ground. This is either straight up broken or unplayable. So why the fuck does it exist? Why, Blizzard? What the fuck are you doing, man? Alright, so it's double Keleseth buff. 1 Keleseth buff is enough to win the game on its own a lot of the times. Just Kaliseth on 2, followed by basically any minions. You did it. You beat most ladder decks. Double Kaliseth buff. It's pretty crazy. Obviously, the downside is huge. You're playing this a turn later. You're not getting a body with it. And you're setting your mana back. So it's pretty costly, which makes it really hard to evaluate. That being said, it's more consistent. Kaliseth is a one of, which is why it's so fucking frustrating. Because most of the time they should not have it. So when they do have it, you just feel like the universe is taking a dump on your face. But this, they should have it more often than not. You can actually make a Surrender to Madness deck, and because it's 2 copies, and if you want, you can run Shadow Visions, which honestly might not even be a bad idea, because you also have Mind Blast. So you can duplicate that for more burst to finish them off, or you can make sure your Surrender to Madness lines up. Of course, then you're passing the first 2 of the first 3 turns, which is, maybe not the best strategy for a tempo deck, but all things considered, so it's more consistent, and the payoff is really big. And if you have like a bunch of 1 mana and 2 mana cards, like I think the idea with this is you fall way behind in the first like 3 to 4 turns, and then from turn 5 and onward, you're just churning out loads of stats, like things like Novice Engineer, 2 mana 3/3, draw a card. Like you can just cycle through your deck. We have Baron Simity down here, which we're going to get to in a second. Things that just help you draw a lot of cards to make up the deficit. And if you're drawing a lot of really broken cards, because after this, every card's broken. Dire Mole's a 3/5. Every card is broken. If you're drawing multiple broken cards a turn and just throwing them on the board, you're going to overwhelm your opponent. So the question is, can you do that consistently enough before you die to Baku Rogue? I don't fucking know. I hope not. Because if you can, then this is fucking stupid. This is just fucking stupid, and I quit this game. If this thing is good, I'm done. Fuck you, Blizzard. I'm done. What are you doing? But if it's complete trash, also what are you doing? Why are you printing garbage epics then? Like, there's no way to win with this shit. If I probably even craft them even if I don't open them to give it a try on release, and we'll see how it goes. 1 week to go. We're going to find out exactly how mad it gets. Mass Hysteria, possibly related. Really, really, really good AoE. It's like a Super Collider, but a bunch of Super Collider swings all at once. We know Super Collider is really good. You don't have to take damage at all this way. And everything, there's no way to position around it. It's just everything swings everywhere. Super powerful, super efficient AoE. We'll definitely see play in various Control Priest decks. Baron Simity, draw a bunch of broken 1-drops. Or I guess if you can make the totem work. Or even just like, you could just see this with clerics and stuff, right? Like just play them and draw some clerics and a few other 1-drops. I don't know. It's an interesting card. Even if it just draws like 2, then I think this card's very good. Like, back in the day, Ancient of Lore was 7 mana 5/5 draw 2. And that was so broken it had to be nerfed. Granted, the game has come a long way from that, but still, if this draws at least 2, you should be happy. If it draws more than that, it's really good. And if it's in a Madness deck and you're filling your hand with broken cards, then you just won. Unless you're dead that turn that you play him. On the flip side, Princess Talanji seems like complete garbage. I don't even know what to do with this card. I have no idea what to do with this. 8 mana 7/5 is garbage. Summon all minions from your hand that didn't start in your deck. Priest doesn't really create a lot of minions, so I don't know what that's doing. You can like seance something and play a really understated. Like these would be bad stats for a 6-drop, and it's an 8-drop, and then you cheat your seance thing into play. Why not just play the seance thing? It's got to cost like 8 or less, probably, right? So I don't see the utility. I don't see the purpose behind this card. Maybe there's something Um, it's not even like cheap. If it were cheap, I'm trying to think like maybe you can get a bunch of like Velens and Malygoses in your hand and stuff, but like you're still playing an 8. You have 2 mana left to spend after this. I don't even see how it lets you do anything cool like that. I don't know. It's a neat effect. I just don't know what it's doing in Priest, and on this body it seems really bad. And then we have Grave Aura, which is Arcane Giant with Taunt. And Arcane Giant was really good, and Taunt is really good, so this card should be really good. It's worth pointing out you can get this down to like 0 or near 0 and Seance it and play another one. So that's cool. Yeah, you just put it in a deck with lots of spells, spam lots of spells, play Grave Horrors. I don't know if Priest is actually going to be able to make a deck like that in the current card pool, but maybe in Wild where you can run this and Arcane Giant, that's enough consistency. That could be fun to try. I don't know. It's a very cool card, and we know cards just like it in the past that have seen play. So this is basically a better version of Arcane Giant, so making it class specific. Even if it's a weird class, like it should see play. I don't know. That's Priest. Not much to talk about. Okay, super video. Go. Rogue. Serrated Tooth. 1 mana, 1/3 weapon. Death Rattle. Give your minions rush. This card is insane. Very good. And honestly, like a 1 mana weapon's all Rogue really needed to justify like Pirate Rogue. Like I don't know about even Rogue, but like Pirate Rogue with this and Sharkfin Fan, and then you can also have the South Sea Captain. Seems like it might be a better way to go, but even, I guess less consistent. I don't know. Definitely a lot to try out there. Also might be good in Baku Rogue. It's just a good card. Just a 1/3 weapon. It's fine. And that Death Rattle is super good. Bloodsail Howler, just a beefy rush guy if you have a bunch of pirates. I think it's kind of like the last pirate you add to the deck. I don't think it's actually that good. But if you have at least 2 pirates out, this card's like pretty crazy. A 3/3 with rush. It's pretty good, and obviously it doesn't lose the buff. I don't know why it would, but just felt like pointing that out. Stolen Steel, Discover Weapon. Oh, I meant to look at... I'm not going to stop that. I meant to do that in the RNG analysis, and I actually forgot. I meant to look at all the weapons. Shaman doesn't have many weapons, so... And you can't hit Rogue. So, it's like Paladin, Warrior, and Hunter weapons, and then the Legendary weapons. And I think... You have pretty good odds of always hitting one of the legendary weapons with this. And a lot of the weapons are just like pretty good. This is a pretty good card. And it's notable that it's something with test that will always trigger. Because even if you're against another rogue, it's just going to be from another class. So you'll still have your test do something. It'll be like re-equip Fiery War Axe or some shit. Raiding Party, this card is super good. Draw 2 pirates. So 3 mana draw 2 is like standard. And then if you combo it, you draw a 3rd card, which is a weapon. I don't know if the Pirate Rogue thing will come together, and if it'll run weapon. If it does, you're going to get like the Serrated Tooth with it or something. One thing I want to try is Kingsbane with this. A Kingsbane with some more pirates, both in Wild and in Standard. This might make Kingsbane in Standard more of a thing, because you can draw your Kingsbane more consistently. And if you're doing it in Standard, you need the pirates for the weapon buffs anyways. I don't know if Standard it'll work. I don't think there's enough buffs. But very good card. Very cool. 3 mana, draw 3. Pretty spicy. And it tutors. It tutors everything it draws, so that's cool. Spirit of the Shark, I feel like people are sleeping on this. It's Bran with Stealth. And it also doubles combo, which means it doubles SI, it doubles Minstrel, it doubles Vile Spine to really rub it in and kill that thing. And it's Bran with Stealth. So you can play Bran and not have him die and then benefit from him next turn with your oracles and stuff. Instead of just having to wait until you're at like 10 mana to do stuff. I think this card's very good. It's definitely going to work in Wild's Oracle-style Mill Rogue decks and Kingsbane decks. I don't know if it has a home in Standard, but it does, it doubles Minstrel. It doubles... Feldori Strider, it doubles SI. There's not a shortage of good battle cries and combos in Rogue. And Bran is very powerful, and you have more consistency, and it's got stealth. Card's awesome. Walk the Plank, it's a better Assassinate. I just heard something. Assassinate is like the baseline. It might have actually been my chairs. I think about it. Assassinate is like the baseline for a bad card. You don't want to spend 5. No, there's something outside going on. If you spend 4 or less to destroy, you're usually pretty happy. Yeah. Destroy an undamaged minion. It's like, I don't know. Blast Crystal Potion saw play, and it had a pretty substantial downside, but that was in Warlock. They can afford to run more bad cards. And Rogue's already really good at killing lots of stuff, like Vile Spine and stuff. But I think it's a good card. I don't know if it'll find a home. Maybe after rotation it'll be better, but this is a good card. It's just only time will tell if it's a good enough. Grawl the Shark. This card's pretty cool. Yeah, you want to eat something like if you eat a 3/3, you feel kind of bad-ish, but you have to look at it as like 5 mana, 5/5, Death Rattle, draw a card. And that's not even that bad. Like your bad scenario is like you eat an SI and then you get the SI later. And if you eat something bigger, you eat like a Strider. You've got a 5 mana 6/6 that draws a card. Like it can get pretty beefy. Obviously, if you're running too many small minions, it's gonna be pretty bad a lot of the time. You just gotta build around it. Cannon Barrage, very expensive for the effect, but obviously prep exists, as people always point out, and it's just a good finisher. If you have a lot of pirates, this is going to be a lot of damage. And history has shown time and time again, if you have an aggro-y, tempo-y deck, and it pulls ahead and it just has a big burst finisher, it's going to kill people. So, I don't know. This is a card to watch for. It's not like insane. It's not an amazing card, but it might be good enough. Gurubashi Hype Mon's just really cool. I think constructed-wise, it's too expensive. 7 mana 5/7. You have like Shadowcaster and stuff. Sonya. There are better ways to get this in like a targeted sort of way. That being said, Rogue does have a lot of really good Battlecry minions, so you can hit your Striders, your Myra, and stuff like that. It's the 7 mana 5/7 that doesn't do anything is a big hurdle to get over. For me, Rogue is better value generators. In Arena, this card is nuts, but we don't care about Arena. So, in Constructed, I think it's probably just too slow. Captain Hooktusk is kind of weird. Expensive. You not really draw 3. It's not even recruit 3. It's just you create 3 things. They're probably going to be small things because you're playing pirates, but if you have like a South Sea in there and you get that, it makes them bigger. They got Rush. They trade into stuff. It's a good way to get a lot of pirates on the board, and I think if you have pirates in your deck, you probably look at this, but it's an 8 mana 6/3. So it's probably bad. And we're going to keep going with the super video. Shaman! Alright. Totemic Smash, it's a smite. Smites are good. Smites are not crazy. Overkill's not going to come up very often, but it's a strictly better smite. And Shaman has access to spell damage, so it's a cool card. Wartbringer. This card seems really difficult to trigger. Even in Shaman, which has like a lot of 0 and 1 mana cost spells, it's hard to play 2 spells in a turn, especially a Shaman, because a lot of them are like removal and stuff. Where like big AoEs, or I don't know. It seems like it'd be hard to trigger this. The upside is huge. 1 mana 2/1 deal 2 is crazy. It just seems like it'd be hard to consistently do. That being said, if you can do it even some of the time, it may be worth running this. Because like 1 mana 2/1 is just vanilla 1-drop stats, right? Like it's not the worst. I don't know. It's a cool design. I don't expect it to be very good, but like this is the kind of common you want to see. Big Bag Voodoo is bad. It's Ancestral Spirit or whatever. The one that resummons the thing, except instead of resummoning, you evolve it, and evolve's been getting really bad. Also, it's really slow and hard to deal with. I guess the upside is like you can evolve the thing without getting rid of it immediately, so you get the value of still using it. You can still attack with it. But it's a single target evolve, and unstable mutation exists. So draw your own conclusions. Lickum, this card's really cool. If you overload a mana crystal, it will be overloaded the turn you overload it, and then the next turn when it's overloaded. So if you overload once, you get 2 turns with Lickum. 2 mana, 3/3 weapons, very good. It's not too hard to overload things in Shaman. If there is like an Overload Shaman deck, this should be a staple. If there isn't, this shouldn't see play anywhere. Yeah, that's that. Actually, I don't know. Maybe even just like in like Shadowwalk Shaman, if you have just enough Overload cards. I'd have to go back and look to see how many Overload cards you could fit into a good Shadowwalk deck. Like a 2-mana 3/3 weapon is serious. So if you can enable this, you should probably have this. Is the thing to take away. Bog Slasher. This card's super cool. A 3-mana 3/3 elemental. You bounce a thing and buff it. Hand buff is just becoming a neutral mechanic now, which is cool. Yeah, I don't know exactly what to do with this. Like, your instinct is like Shudderwalk, but it's actually not good with Shudderwalk because it doesn't discount the Shudderwalk, unlike Grumble. But like, it's really good with Chain Gang, right? Which you already want to be playing in Shudderwalk decks, obviously. And so you bounce a Chain Gang, you still have one of them on the board. You play it, and now you have 2 Yetis with Taunt. So that's pretty cool. Excuse me. Very cool card. There's a lot of like elementals with good battle cries and stuff. So maybe it'll find a home. It's definitely an interesting design. It's just hard to evaluate like where exactly you'd want to use this and how good it would be. It doesn't work in any of the existing Shaman decks too perfectly, I don't think. But there can be new ones. Haunting Visions is basically 0 mana discover a spell, and that's pretty good. It's only 0 mana discover a spell if you cast another spell with it. So you can discover a spell and cast it right away, or have something else ready, like a Farsight or something to cast with it. Shaman spells on average are quite good, and especially if you're discovering, it's quite easy to pick one that's going to be good. So I think this card's pretty reasonable. It's not like crazy. It's not like Primordial Glyph where you're doing nutso balls things with it. So it's not quite that good, and I don't know. I don't know if Shaman can leverage it as well as like Mage could, but historically pretty reasonable and powerful type of effect, so it could be good. Spirit of the Frog, you keep drawing spells in incremental values. Really cool deck building challenge. Seems really, really difficult to actually use that in Shaman though. Shaman isn't really like a curve out with your spells kind of class. The spells are pretty big and situational, and there's lots of overload and stuff, and I don't know. Very cool design. It'll be interesting to see how people try to solve that problem. Zentimo is awesome. It's like Electra, except... So Electra, the problem... I mean, Electra's a good card. Electra doesn't have many problems. But one of the problems is that there aren't as many spells that are good to double. As there are spells to turn into AoEs, right? So Electra, you just want to like Lightning Storm them or Healing Rain or something and just double effect. Zentimo, you can do like just nuts shit. You can multi-hex, you can Lightning Bolt multiple things, you can buff your own guys with like Rockbite or Wind Fury stuff people are thinking about. It'll be really cool to see what people do with this card. I think he's extremely powerful. Probably the best Shaman card of the... Yeah. This is definitely the best Shaman card of the set. Maybe Lick Him is close, or Rain of Toads. But yeah, very, very powerful. Should do lots of cool things. Kragwa. Return all spells you played last turn to your hand. It's a weird one, but I don't know. It's like you can make a volcano. 6 mana 4/6, create a volcano. 6 mana 4/6, create a healing rain. 6 mana 4/6, create a Farsight. 6 mana 4/6, create a hex. 6 mana 4/6, create any 2 of these things I've said. I think this card's probably good. It'll be interesting to see if there's actually like a home for it, because Shaman's super polarized. Like right now, Shaman is basically even aggro Shaman or Shudderwalk, and then if you want to try to do something in the middle, you're doing like meme elemental stuff. It's really hard to kind of sit between the extremes right now in this class, which is kind of what this card's doing. I mean, it's an even cause card, but it obviously doesn't really fit with what even Shaman does. And in Shudderwalk, like, you want your 6 drops to be setting you up to win the game, not creating marginal value. So it's a good card. It's just the class identity is in a weird place right now. Rain of Toads, spreading toads, as you will. Make a bunch of toads, taunty guys. It compares kind of weirdly against like Chain Gang and Phantom Militia. When I saw this card, I thought it was just going to be like why does this exist? Why not just play those? But thinking about it more, like it does upgrade the Spellstone. It's a spell, so it plays nice with Malygos. Malygos Shaman is where I'm thinking about this now, right? Because it doesn't get in the way of your Eurekras or Ancestors' Calls. It upgrades a Spellstone. It stalls the game out. Also, if you just want to make a big board, like 2/4s are pretty sticky, and then you can Bloodlust them after. Obviously not on 6, because you'd be overloaded, but still. Like, I don't know. It's a cool card. I'd be surprised if this doesn't make a splash. Alright. Warlock. Grim Rally, destroy a thing, buff your things. This is what Zoo wants to do. There's a new egg. We're going to get to the neutrals, but there's a new Nerubian egg type card, and I think with that, this can do some pretty nasty things. We might actually see like some sort of Death Rattly tokeny Zoo make a resurgence. Definitely a powerful card. It's like Mark of the Lotus. Is that the card? I think that's the card. Mark of the Lotus, which is obviously did a lot of work justifying Token Druid in its day. With a downside, but destroying a friendly minion often isn't a downside if you're building around it. You can do lots of stuff with hatching eggs and stuff. So very cool. Shriek, we're finally getting targeted discard, which is awesome. 1 mana, deal 2 to everything, which is good. It's just good. And you know what you're going to discard, more or less. You might have like a tie, but the important thing is you're not going to discard Blood Reaver Gul'dan or anything like that. So yeah, should be a cool card that finds you somewhere. Even like outside of a discard deck. Just 1 mana, discard something you probably don't need to clear the board. Can get you out of trouble. Spirit of the Bad, after a friendly minion dies, give a minion your hand +1/+1. Yeah, we've seen more cards. I don't think hand buff Warlock is going to be a thing. It's hard to kill off your own minions, and this is a really slow way to gain these buffs. So this card seems really bad. But maybe you can do some stuff with Hyrek, but seems really bad to me. Like, even if you want to make a hand buff Warlock, I think you just skip this. I think you actually just skip this card and put in the other hand buff cards. Okay, Reckless Dire Troll. 3 mana, 2/6, discard your lowest cost card. Very good. 2/6 taunt, beefy. Beefy, discard things. I don't think this one you'd play outside of a discard deck, probably. Unlike, like, Shriek, I think, can just fit into a Warlock deck. But this one, you probably actually want to be progressing the quest or discarding, like, Jeklicks and stuff. That being said, you're being rewarded pretty reasonably for doing that. A 2/6 taunt's quite good. So if you can turn the discard into an upside, I think this card's very good. I don't think you just throw it anywhere, though. Jeklik, taunt, lifesteal, 3/4. Solid minion. If they just printed 4 mana, 3/4 taunt, lifesteal, it would probably see play. If that were like a neutral common. And when you discard it, she multiplies. Cool flavor. I think I think the idea is that she's like using misdirection and illusion magic to be everywhere. I don't know who this person is, but that's what I've gathered from it. It's a cool mechanic. You can discard and gain card advantage for discarding, which is really cool. And then you have healing to help you recover in the late game after you get your portal up. So looking forward to Disco Luck. Soul Warden, another Disco Luck tool. 6 mana, 6/6, create 3 Majubans. You can go infinite if you discard a Soul Warden and like only 2 other things, so you just infinitely make Soul Wardens, so that's cool. Yeah, I mean, there's not much to say there. It's just a lot of value, and you get to make up for having discarded stuff. That being said, I don't know that discard luck needs more value. So of the new tools, this is probably like the worst one the archetype actually got, honestly. Because you have infinite 3/2s once you get your portal online. So you don't really need like more stuff. You know, you just need to get to the point where you can play the portal, and then you're probably fine against a lot of decks. Not all of them. Blood Troll Sapper, 7 mana, 5/8. After a friendly minion dies, deal 2 damage to the enemy hero. I love effects like this. Very cool. It's kind of expensive, but it's got a nice big body, and that makes it hard to kill. Things that are hard to kill are pretty cool. It's got a cool passive ability. Good finisher for like an aggro deck. You can like drop this and trade some tokens in and push a bunch of face damage while clearing their board, and then you're going to hit them for 5 next turn. I think it's probably too big and slow and expensive. Maybe if it were like a demon, so you could cheat it into play or resummon it. But I'd be surprised if this sees a lot of constructed play, but it's definitely a cool design. I really like it. Demon Bolt. I just realized, am I capturing the cat the entire time? That would have been hilarious. I get this far in, it's just this giant cat. Alright, anyways. Demon Bolt. Destroy a minion, costs 1 less. It's Sea Giant. Well, it's, I guess, only minions you control. So if you have 7 minions, this costs 1 mana. It's basically a Shield Slam, which would be the best way to compare it. It's easier to gain like 8 to 12 armor than it is to summon 7 minions. That being said, there is like the new Scarabag or whatever, as previously mentioned. There are ways to create lots of tokens. So I think maybe 7's out of reach, but if you can consistently get this down, like if you have 4 minions on the board, it beats Assassinate, which, as we said before, is kind of your benchmark for evaluating single target hard removal. Is this cheaper than Assassinate? If it is, you're doing something right. Having 4 minions is kind of a high threshold, but if you have a deck that can consistently have 5 to 6 minions on the board a lot of the time, and I don't know that you can do that, this card's really good. But I don't know that you can do that. We live in a world with like Defile and Duskbreaker and Spreading Plague, and like it's a lot more difficult than it used to be to leverage tokens into nasty stuff. Like there's some pretty efficient answers now. So that style of Zulok may just not. It just might be outdated, but it'll be cool to see if it can make a comeback. Alright, here you buff him up, and then he's a giant doppelganger, and he's fucking stupid. Don't play this card. Don't play this card. Even like with you can double buff him with the 1 mana +2/+2. It's like a bunch of 5/5s, and I guess that's cool. But Warlock has to be able to be doing better things than a 3-card combo that relies on hand positioning shenanigans to get a bunch of 5/5s. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'll be impressed. Maybe there's a way to like consistently buff this guy. He has to be at least a 3/3. Can we agree? He has to be at least a 3/3, and even that's not amazing because he just dies to Hellfire and Duskbreaker and stuff. And he's not a demon. If he was a demon, he'd be so much better. I get that he's a Loa, so he can't be for flavor reasons, but then you could at least run the 2-drop hand buff card. Like, they have hand buff cards that don't even synergize with their hand buff finisher. It's just fucking weird. It's just fucking weird, Blizzard. Come on. Void Contract, I fucking hate this card already. If you play any sort of combo deck, you're going to run into people thinking this card's good, who are playing it as a one-of, and they're just going to get free wins against you, and you're going to hate your life. That being said, I don't think this card's actually very good. Warlock has better ways to destroy their opponent's deck. They have Ren, they have Nosferatu, they have Demonology Project to spot remove things out of the hand. Warlock does not need help disrupting combos, and 8 mana do nothing is a huge price to pay. Huge price to pay. So I really don't see this actually being a good competitive card, but it is going to win games by people who don't know better putting it in and just getting lucky with matchups. So that's one of those. Okay, Warlock. 1 mana execute. Nice. It kills anything 5 or less that you would execute. The problem is that execute was good because it was killing like 8/8s and stuff, you know? This can't kill 8/8s. I think this card's not bad. I think if you're running a deck that runs execute type effects, you probably look at this and there's reasonable consistency to your removal plan. Jesus. But, yeah, man, fucking super videos suck, dude. How do people do this? Spirit of the Rhino. Your rush minions are immune the turn they're summoned. That's pretty cool. Synergizes well with a lot of very powerful cards. And it's only 1 mana, and it has the bonus of sticking around another turn, so you can possibly double dip on it. Rush-centric Warrior has not been amazing, but it hasn't been bad. You can kind of just make a general mid-rangey, slow, grindy Warrior and have enough rush minions to maybe justify this as like a one-of without being a rush deck. You know, like you have what's the 5-mana 4/4? God damn it, how did I forget his name? He's like my favorite legendary from Witchwood, and I can't even remember his name. Anyways, yeah. You have that guy, you have Ziliax, you have the 5/5s if you want to go that way, you have Akali if you want to go that way. There's some cool options to do cool stuff. I don't think it's going to be amazing, but it's like it's one of those cool like utility cards. Dragon Roar, we went over the random dragons, and this card's really pretty good. Yeah, it's a lot like the 1-mana Assembly? No, Weapons Assembly is the 2-mana thing. Dude, what is going on? Omega Assembly? It's Omega Assembly, right? I cannot remember cards today. It's a lot like that. Dragons are higher card quality than mechs are, though. In Standard, at least, and I think probably also in Wild. Dragons are just higher card quality, pound for pound, than mechs. So you're only getting 2... and it costs 2 more, but you're getting better cards on average, and you can cast it earlier than turn 10, which will be relevant sometimes, right? Sometimes you just have extra mana to spend, so you just dump this on like turn 5, and then you get like a Primordial Drake or something to play in a couple turns, instead of having to wait until you get to 10, and then playing it, and then waiting another turn to actually play the stuff you get off of it. It does obviously they don't get rushed, so if you're still doing like a Dr. Boom style deck, you may still prefer the Omega Assembly, but I think reasonable competition there. They do kind of the same thing, and this doesn't compare unfavorably. Let's put it that way. I think in a lot of decks, this is the better one. Without straight up replacing it, which is how new cards should do. It's not power creep, it's just different with its own advantages. Overlord's Whip. Hurt your stuff. 3 mana 2 for a weapon. 3 mana 2 for a weapon's pretty good. That's really the main thing. There's not really any like good Overlord synergies, Enrage synergies anymore, especially since they just removed Enrage from the game, which is fucking stupid. Like there's just no reason to do that. Maybe in Wild this could make like Grim Pagan Warrior come back. Could be cool to see. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting kind of card. They keep pushing this in Warrior, but like they didn't add any new support for that. They just like it's just here. Like there's no enraged cards in Warrior right now. They just give them enablers because that's what they do. I don't know. Smolderthorn Lancer, it's execute on a stick. You can put execute in your odd deck, which could be worth it. Execute's pretty good. It's interesting to note, execute was actually nerfed back in the day because it was seeing so much play in Dragon Warrior, which at that time was a tempo deck. So they would rush you down with a combination of like it was like a curator deck. So they had like beasts and pirates and dragons and stuff. I believe there's a lot of Hearthstone history in my head, and it's all getting muddled these days. I can't remember fucking card names. But yeah, so they nerfed execute because it was just too efficient in like every type of deck. So there is, like, it's kind of weird to have a minion that executes, but it makes sense in context of wanting a tempo dragon style deck and an execute together. It'll be interesting to see if that style of deck makes a resurgence. In terms of the like slower control things, I guess if you want execute and odd warrior, you have to use this. But I think execute, if we're ignoring even odd, execute is still just better because it's cheaper, and cheaper means it's easier to synergize with your Wind Fury effects and stuff, and cheaper is better. The 3/2 doesn't really matter in those kinds of decks. So, yeah. Goose? Goosey geese. I don't know. War Master Voon, 4 mana, 4/3, make a bunch of dragons. Pretty fucking cool. Something outside. Oh, I think it's that cat. There's been a cat yowling outside. I feel so bad for it. I don't know what it's doing, man. I think it's pregnant or something. Anyways. War Master Voon. Very underwhelming to play, but he just creates a ton of dragons. Like even if you have like 2 dragons in your hand, making... First of all, dragons that are good enough to be in your deck are really good. And making more copies of really good big cards is really, really good. I think this guy justifies his existence. So hopefully we'll see him do some cool stuff with Dragon Warrior. He also enables Hold a Dragon, even if you have 1. Like if I just have Emberscale Drake, I play this guy, and now I can play this guy on 5 and get the armor. Speaking of this guy, Shield Maiden was really, really good. This is Shield Maiden for 1 less mana, and it's a dragon, and there's the conditional, but at least it helps feed the conditionals of the other dragons, and it's cheaper. Should be good. If Dragon Warrior is a thing, this will be in it. Not much to talk about there. Heavy Metal, we haven't really seen... I'm running out of air, fam. We haven't really seen any other like armor specific synergies, but I don't know. Yip. So Yip is already a card, and he hasn't seen a lot of play. But Yip is a legendary. If you have a legendary, and then you add in a 2 of, so like this rare here, that do the same thing, you have consistency. And if you have consistency, you can actually build around the effect. So now you can actually build around having lots of armor to cheat something into play. You couldn't do that before. You just couldn't. If you did that, you were stupid because you only had 1 Yip. Now you have 3 Yips. And that might not mean anything. It could still be bad, but it's worth investigating because now you can actually do it with consistency. Consistency is good. So Thraz, one of the better Overkill cards. This card's pretty okay. It's 16 face damage if you want to look at it that way. Or 25 if you buff it with the pirate guy. So that's scary. It also has the pseudo Fool's Bane effect. You can kill stuff to get extra attacks. You can even just like kill a thing and then hit them in the face. That's a cool way to like divide the damage. I think this is more of a aggressive mid-range card than a control card. I think Super Collider is probably better if you want to go control. But if you want the option to also push a lot of face damage, then this is pretty good. Pretty good. Rhino Man. I feel like we already talked... Oh, we talked about him doing the RNG thing. Rhino Man's okay. 5/5 Rush is... It's probably going to kill... It's going to overkill something. It's going to come down and do a thing... And then you draw a Rush minion to make it big, and that's really cool. The question is just like, is it good enough? Is it going to be consistent enough? Are you going to draw your other Rush minions before this too often? Is it going to have a good target often enough? Are you comfortable spending your entire turn killing 1 minion that's like a 4/4 or smaller and drawing a card, even if you buff it? I don't know the answers to these questions. I'm a little skeptical. Of this new like Rush Hunter thing, but maybe with like Undasta and stuff, which we'll get to in a minute, we might start to see something cool come out of it. It's a very cool card. I love the art in particular, so I really hope it does cool things. It's just like stat wise, it seems very small. Obviously, if you cheat it into play earlier, it makes a lot more sense, and you're more comfortable with it. That's true with any big minion, but especially with one that preys upon small minions. And let's do the neutrals and get through this. Boom, boom, boom. If only there were like a scroll bar over here that I could just touch on and slide up. How are we doing on for time, by the way? 30 minutes. Okay. I've actually managed to significantly condense this. Oh, so you're welcome. I can't breathe and I'm thirsty, but we're getting there. Chicken, bad. Don't eat it. Helpless hatchling is basically snow flipper penguin, if you want to think about it that way, except it's worse. It's like a worse snow flipper penguin. I haven't found a good target, but one thing to keep in mind is that you could reduce the cost of a specific beast if you only have like let's say you had King Crush, right? You have King Crush. You can play these, and it's sort of like galvanizing your Mechathune. You can discount your King Crush down to like 7. If there was something you could combo with a 7-mana King Crush to justify this. But just as an example, I haven't found a beast yet. Obviously, it doesn't work with Haginox because it's a beast, and then you're fucking up Witching Hour. Maybe Undasta, but that doesn't seem like where you want to be. I don't know. I think this is just worse than Snow Flipper Penguin, but it's more interesting because if you have a specific beast that you ever want to discount by exactly 2, if you ever want to discount it by exactly 2 to enable some kind of really broken combo, then these are you guys. Until then, don't play it. Zombie Chow's back. This is slightly worse than Zombie Chow. But Zombie Chow was insane, and this seems like the best Zombie Chow since Zombie Chow. So play Zombie Chow. I guarantee this is going to be good. You got my seal of guaranteal approval slide thing. That it's been a long video. Cheaty Ankle Biter. 2 mana, 2/1, lifesteal, deal 1 damage. That card's really good. That card's a really good anti-aggro card. You shoot a token, you heal for 1, and then you got a 2/1 to trade into another token and heal for 2. It's good. It's not like amazing, but like 2 drops have really sucked right now. So this is probably actually going to see a decent amount of play in people who don't want to run Killer Seth. Excuse me. This card is fucking awesome flavor. I think it's really bad. So your best case scenario is that you deal 1 to this, and then you have a 2-mana 4/3. But that's not very reliable. And your worst case scenario is you spend turn 2 playing an 0/4, and then they just kill it. And it's just gone. And it never does anything. Doesn't do damage, doesn't do anything. Doesn't eat a card. It's just bad. Very cool flavor. Yeah, I don't know, man. Maybe I'm like Even Mage. Even Mage, this is your turn 2 play, and then you ping it on turn 3 and play another 2-drop. There you go. Even Mage hype. You got it. Scarab Egg, this is the new Nerubian Egg. 3/1/1s are worse than 1/4/4, but they're not, like, strictly worse. Like, it's more stats, but it's spread across more bodies, which is both a downside and an upside. So it's worse against AoE. There's more AoEs that deal with this, but it's better if you have like AoE buffs, say the new Warlock spell. I don't actually know the timing. If you target this, it would destroy it, and then I think the buff would go through before the Scarabs come out, but I'm not positive. If it buffs the Scarabs, that's a really good combo to make a bunch of 2/2s on turn 3. Yeah, like this should see play. We've come a long way since Nerubian Egg, but a lot of new players probably don't know, but Nerubian Egg was the card. Like back in Noxramas after Undertaker got nerfed. Nerubian Egg was like the fucking star of the show. It was Nerubian Egg, Zombie Chow, and Sludge Belcher 24/7. So we're getting the gang back together, and we got the mage secret for the Belchers. It's Noxramas 2.0. We're doing it. But very cool card. Should do really good things in token style decks. Like, it's hard to see this not being good, just based on history. Even though AoEs have gotten better. Sharkfin fan. Now that we've seen the full set, I think we can conclude this card's probably actually pretty okay. It looks good in Even Rogue, and if you want to include South Sea Captain, then you have the 1-mana 1/3 weapon now to still justify this. So I think this card's probably just good. I think it's probably just good. It's just a good pirate to fill out your curve and make more pirates. It's not like crazy, but it's fine. Spellzerker, very cool design. It's kind of hard to get the spell damage out of this, which is sort of a downside. right? It really offsets the spell damage plus 2-bit. But there's a low cost for including this. This is a River Crocodile, which I don't think we have. I'm pretty sure we haven't had a spell damage minion that's on par with just like a cheap vanilla on curve minion. So there's a very low cost to this, and like I've said before, 2-drops really suck. So maybe there's a deck where they're like, fuck it, I don't want to run Kel'Thuzad, and there's nothing else. Throw in the Spellzerkers, and they're just going to be River Crocodile that sometimes make your spells crazy. I doubt that. I really doubt that, but it is a very cool design. As far as River Crocodile go, this is a cool one. Banana Buffoon. Add 2 bananas to your hand. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do with bananas. Unfortunately, Mana Worm's dead. This is obviously why they nerfed Mana Worm. Mana Worm was fine for years, probably. No issues there. It's because of Banana Buffoon. They had to get rid of him. Quest Mage, obviously. Play your 3-mana 2/2 and your Quest Mage. 2 whole progress ticks. I don't know. This card's actually pretty... Like, it's 4/4 stats, but it's like a 5-mana 4/4. 5-mana 4/4 is really bad, but you can play it on turn 3 as a weaker thing, and you can spread the stats around, and you get spell triggers. And you get multiple card triggers. So maybe in, like, a Rogue with Questing Adventure and Van Cleef. I don't know. I think the card's, like, bad, but it's, again, like, a lot of these, they're bad, but they're good bad. They're bad in a way that's interesting. And this could find use somewhere. Somewhere. There's a lot you can do with bananas, honestly. Go to Wild, Flamewaker. Fuck it. Ornery Tortoise, other than Zombie Chow, I think this might actually be... Maybe even over Zombie Chow. I think this might be the best neutral card of the set. I'm just going to call it straight up right here. The downside is not that bad. Dealing 5 damage to your hero is not that bad for a 3-mana 3/5. 3-mana 3/5s are big. Blackwing Technician. Again, the game has come a long way since the old days. But Blackwing Technician put in some fucking work. You'd be surprised. You just stick a 3/5 and you just farm everything. Like, put it in Priest, and you're just trading into shit and healing it up. Put it in Hunter, and you just Houndmaster it. Put it in Heal Paladin, and you're hitting yourself in the face and healing up. Like, there's a lot of homes for this, and it's just a lot of stats for very little downside. There is a downside, and in some matchups, it's going to kill you. So you have to be aware of that. But it's very little downside for a lot of stats. I think this card is just going to be amazing. Arena yeah. Neutral, Grime Street, Outfitter. Much worse. It's more stats, twice the cost. But Grime Street Outfitter was a really, really good card, and now it's neutral. Making things neutral does a lot of cool stuff. With one hand buff card, I don't know if that enables anything. Like in classes that didn't already have hand buff stuff. But it's cool, and I'm glad they're finally like pushing it into more classes. Cool card. A lot of these are just cool cards. Arena Treasure Chest, 4-mana draw 2. I don't know. My gut says bad, but it's a 4-mana draw 2. And if you like play dead this, like Death Rattle Hunter, you like play dead it. I feel like you have better uses in Death Rattle Hunter for generating value. I don't know. This card's probably bad, but it's... I mean, that's a powerful effect. So, if you can find a way to weaponize this consistently, or get multiple triggers of the draw 2, then it's probably worth checking out. Halftime Scavenger. This card's actually super sweet. 4-mana 3/5 Stealth. That's actually that's a really good stat distribution, and Stealth is really nice, especially for like buff decks. And then it heals you when it kills stuff. Like I really want to try making this work in a buff paladin. Anytime I see a good stealth minion, that's my instinct, and I'm gonna go with my instinct here and say, I want to make this guy big, and I want to swing into shit and gain health and take over the board, and then punch him in the face. That's my instinct. It's pretty cool. It's not like, again, Very few of these commons are going to be spotlight stealers. But as far as 4-drops go, it's pretty cool. Regenerating Thug, though, sucks. This card's bad. Stone Skin Gargoyle was a 2-mana 1/4 that healed itself to full every turn. This guy is 4-mana 3/5 that only heals for 2. Bad. That's very bad. I'd rather play Stone Skin and buff that, and I don't want to play the Stone Skin, so I don't want to play this. Rumble Tusk Shaker, it's like the Cursed Disciple, the 5/1, but it's 3 2s instead. Cursed Disciple only saw play because of the Druid quest. Excuse me. I don't see where this guy has a similar home. It does not compare favorably against Piloted Shredder or other similar cards. So I think this is probably just bad. It's probably just bad. Like, 3/2s are generally a bit better than 5/1s, but I think it's probably just bad. I think they're both bad cards, and the Cursed Disciple only works because of the Druid quest. Took a Scalper's bad. I believe Overkill only triggers on your turn, not if your opponent attacks into it. That is what I've heard. I have never heard a Hearthstone developer explain Overkill. So if that's wrong, this card suddenly becomes very good. But if you have to attack, this card is complete trash. Don't play it. They're just going to kill it. It's 3 health. Dragon Moss Scorcher. This card, compared to Despicable Dreadlord. So turn 5, dealing 1 to a bunch of stuff is surprisingly powerful. And these are like comparable stats. 4/5 against 3/6. Pretty good. And it's a dragon. If you have a dragon deck, put this in. Really good dragon. Not a lot to talk about there. Former champ, this is the what was the 6-drop? The 1/1 that summons a 6/6. I can't remember his name. Something Racketeer. This is the 5-drop version of that. That card was bad. This card's bad. It's a really good evolve target, but we have a lot of other really good evolve targets, so don't play that. Sightless Ranger, this card's complete trash. So Ghostly Charger, I actually played a bit with Ghostly Charger, because I am a glutton for punishment, apparently. But before they nerfed it, when it was a beast, I played it in Wild in a Reno Paladin that had both Curator and Ashmore. So it was double dipping on the synergies, and that made it like the 30th card in the deck. And it was okay, but it was like pretty bad. Like pretty bad, as you'd expect. And then they nerfed it, and I never played it ever again. And that had Divine Shield, which Divine Shield on a Rush minion. I don't know if you've seen Ziliax, but that's pretty good. This guy doesn't have Divine Shield. He has to kill something with 2 or less health to make tokens. If you're making tokens, why are you playing 5-mana 3/4s with Rush? Like, it doesn't know what it's trying to do. It's just a combination of words and stats that really doesn't seem like it has a home anywhere. It's not good at being a 5-drop Rush. It's not good at being a token generator. And there's really nothing that wants to combine those things in bad ways. So it's a bad card. Amani Warbear, this guy's just pretty solid, pretty cool. It's kind of like the Charged Devil's Sword, is that the guy? But it's got Taunt, which is kind of a big deal. You can rush into a thing and then have it still be in the way for the other things. Pretty cool card. It's hard for 7-drops to see play, but this is one of the better 7-drops. So maybe this one will see play. Rabble Bouncer. This card starts to get good when your opponent has 3 minions. And it starts to get really good when they have more minions than that. So if you're routinely running into like a Baku Paladin and stuff, then Rabble Bouncer is probably really good. The problem historically with cards like this, like we had Second-Rate Bruiser before, is that in the matchups where you don't like meet the condition, it's really, really, really bad. The only card like this we've seen that actually works is Witchwood Grizzly. And the decks that run Witchwood Grizzly typically have ways to actually exploit the Witchwood Grizzly in other ways. Like in Hunter, they can recruit it to circumvent the downside, for example. So like that's the only example of a card like this that's actually worked, and it's much better than this one. I don't know. I don't see how this would work. Yeah, if the meta is like super, is like nothing but Baku Paladin and like spammy Pirate Rogue and even Shaman, then yeah, Rabble Bouncer is going to be good if every single game you're facing a board of like 5 tokens. But you're not going to do that. Mosh Og Enforcer. Also, I just want to remind, if Hearthstone had sideboards, cards like this would be so much better. Like if they added a format with sideboards, then you could put something like this in your sideboard, and it would suddenly serve a very real purpose. Because anytime you're against a matchup where it's good, you just sub it into your deck, and it's really good. The fact that we still don't have sideboards in any format 5 years later makes designs like this just complete rubbish, whereas in other games they're very reasonable cards with a reason to exist. So get on it, Blizzard. Mosh Og Enforcer, it's just a big wall. There's probably better things you can do with 8 mana, but if you want just a big wall, this is like the biggest wall for 8. So if that's what you want, this card's honestly not bad. It's not a bad card. It's just like you're spending a lot of mana on just a wall, and you can be doing other things. You can play a Primordial Drake. I have to think Primordial Drake's better. It's smaller. It's literally like half the size once you factor in the Divine Shield. But it has the AoE attached. It's a dragon. Woo! We're almost done. Alright, Belligerent Gnome. Wormrest Agent? Is that the Dragon Priest card? Wormrest Agent was really good. This is a neutral Wormrest Agent. It's harder to activate this. You can't just be holding a dragon. So on turn 2, this is rarely going to be a 2/4. But it always has Taunt. So it does, like on Wormrest, both parts were conditional. So this isn't like strictly worse than that, I wouldn't say. And also it's neutral. 2/4 taunts are very good. You want your 2/4 taunts against opponents with minions. If your opponent has minions, they're going to have 2 or more minions a lot of the time. So you're going to have your 2/4 taunt when you want to have it. So I think it's probably a good card. It's worth pointing out you can tutor it out with Crystology in Paladin, so it's something to look at there. For like your 29th and 30th cards, if you just need more minions to fill out your curve. Excuse me. So that's a thing. Booty Bay Bookie. 2 mana 3/3, give your opponent a coin. Giving your opponent a coin is a pretty big drawback, and this is not a huge upside, but it's a 2 mana 3/3, and that's scary. So it's not quite Totem Golem tier. In fact, it's substantially worse than Totem Golem, but Totem Golem's insane. And if there's any chance that there's a neutral Totem Golem, you have to try it. So definitely play with this card. It might be bad. The downside, giving your opponent a coin can be really disastrous, and this doesn't have any other abilities. It's just stats. So you have to really capitalize on just having slightly more stats than your opponent on turn 2 to make up for that. And if you can't do that, this could be bad. Fire Tree Witch Doctor. If you're holding a dragon, discover a spell. 2 mana 2/2. We already went over the RNG pools for the classes I think most likely to have dragons. I think this card's really good. And I'm going to be playing with it. If you have dragons in your deck and you're not like a warrior or a hunter, then you should probably do this. Serpent Ward, super cool card. I love designs like this. Back in Yu-Gi-Oh! I played Yu-Gi-Oh! For a bit, and there was, I don't know what it's called. It's like Pyro Dragon or something. It's like a 4-star monster that just dealt 500 to your opponent every turn. And I had a deck built around just like playing those out and protecting them. And I don't know. I just love that style of passive damage. So I really like that we're finally getting something like this. Also, it's the first neutral totem. So now every single creature class is neutral. So that's really cool. We hit that milestone. Yay! It's a bad card. It's a bad card unless you can... Like, I guess if you can like play 2 and hide them behind taunts forever, your opponent will die pretty fast. But it's a bad card. That poor cat. Shield Breaker, 2 mana, 2/1, silence an enemy with taunt. Most of the time in aggro decks, you have silence to silence taunt. So I think a lot of people will swap this in for Spellbreaker. So people running Owl are only odd decks, right? So, yeah. A lot of spell breakers will become shield breakers. That being said, sometimes the flexibility of silencing like an egg or something is quite powerful, silencing a buff off. So it's not like strictly better, but it is a lot cheaper, and cheaper is pretty good. So this card would probably see play. Soup Vendor seems real bad. It's hard to heal for 3 or more very often. 2 mana, 1/4 does nothing on its own. If you can draw like 2 cards with this, I'd say it's good. If you can draw 1 card with this, if you draw, I'm not even happy drawing 1 card. Even though like that sounds better than Novice Engineer, I think it's too much work to get to like barely get over that it doesn't feel like I'm breaking even. It feels like I'm losing. So you want to draw at least like 2 cards, and it seems hard to do with that. Water Boys card's trash. It's a 0 mana 2/1 in a deck that wants to hero power in the early game. So you have to think, what deck wants to hero power in the early game and wants a 0 mana 2/1? And the only thing I can think of is like a Zoolock. But if you're tapping on turn 2 as a Zoolock, you're sad. Like, you're just really sad about your life. So I think this card is bad. I think the only deck that would want this doesn't want this. Maybe an Even Shaman? 0 mana 2/1 and Even Shaman? Even Shaman has to have better tools than that. I don't know. Like, 0 mana 2/1 sounds like something you'd want in an aggro deck, right? But the condition to get it is not just 0 mana. It's 0 mana because you're doing something you don't want to do in the first few turns of the game. Murloc Tasty Fin. This is a Elven Mistral for Murlocs, and it's neutral. And it's slower. It's a death rattle. But it's a minstrel, and it's neutral, and it tutors out specific cards. There is no universe in which this card is bad. There's literally no way this can possibly be bad. You might not even put this in like a normal mid-range, not mid-range, like aggro, tempo-y Murloc deck. Just because you normally want to be playing more aggressive stuff. You might play this in something where you're trying to get like specific Murlocs out, or you just have a few Murlocs in your deck to fill it out, and you want to pull them out. I don't know. There's just no way this is bad. There's just no way it's bad. Minstrel is one of the best rogue cards, and this is a neutral Minstrel, and it tutors, and tutoring is better than drawing. There's just no way it's bad. I don't believe you. Fuck off. Okay. Arena Patron, Overkill, bad card. It's a bad card. It's not Grim Patron. It's so much easier to damage a minion than it is to have your minion swing into a minion with 2 or less health. Like, this is not Grim Patron 2.0. This is complete rubbish. Yeah. You'd have to, like, give them all Rush and play, like, Cornered Sentry. And then you can make a bunch of 3/2s. But you can't give... There's no, like, Rush AoE buff, right? So, it wouldn't work. Oh, there's Houndmaster Shaw. Houndmaster Shaw. If you have a Houndmaster Shaw and Cornered Sentry in your deck, so you have to hack the code of the game, and then you can make a really bad 11 mana combo to make some 3/2s. That's sick, man. Gurubashi Offering. We're also starting to get... is this the first time we've had neutral armor game? No, Plated Beetle. Plated Beetle. But we're starting to get more of it, so that's cool. I like when they take like class-specific mechanics and make them neutral. That's always cool. Yeah, at the start of your turn, destroy this, gain 8 armor. So 1 mana, gain 8 armor is very good. It's very risky, though. You have to hide it behind like a taunt or something. You have to play it on turn 1 when they can't swing it if you're going first. If it were a death rattle... Obviously, if it were a death rattle, it would be so much better. But that would be different. Like, if you had a way to trigger it yourself, but it's just like... wait and pray to get it. I think it's too costly for a heal spell, but it's a lot of healing for 1 mana. So, and it's armor gain. Armor's really good. So, I wouldn't be super surprised to see this card show up somewhere, but I'm pretty sure it's not going to show up anywhere. Let's put it that way. Here we have another Spider Tank that gives everybody a card. Give everyone a random card from their opponent's deck is hard. So these cards, like Spellslinger and I can't remember the Witchwood one. But the way you use these is you play them in a fast deck. You play them in a deck that's faster than your opponent's deck. So you pull a head on board, you run out of cards in your hand, you play it. You both get a card, but they have more cards than you do, so they don't get as much value out of getting a random card as you do, because you don't have cards, because you played them all onto the board already. So with that being in mind, I think this is the worst version of this card so far. It's really hard to imagine a scenario where this is good for you. If you're playing this against a slower deck, then they're getting a fast card and you're getting a slow card. So you're giving them something they can actively play to get onto the board, and you're getting like an AoE or a heal spell or something. Something slow, a combo piece that you don't necessarily want. And if you're playing this against another fast deck, then that's not where it's going to shine anyways. So like the scenario where this is supposed to be good, it's not good, so I have to believe it's bad. Very cool though. Masked Contender, if you control a secret, play a secret. 3 mana, 2/4. That's really good. Play it in Hunter or Mage, not Paladin. It's really good. If you can consistently trigger this in either Hunter or Mage, it's really, really good. And that's the end of it. That's drawing and playing a 2 or 3 mana card is something you want to do. Like, you just want to do that. Untamed Beastmaster, another spider tank. They've really gone crazy with them in this set. Whenever you draw beast, give it +2/+2. Might be worth just throwing into like a beast hunter, just because when it hits, that's a really powerful effect. And when it doesn't hit, you have a spider tank, so you don't really give a fuck, right? So if I get these, I don't know if I'd craft them, but if I open them, I'm definitely going to try them. I think it should be a pretty okay card. It's not like a build around card. It's just like if you have a lot of beasts and you need more 3-drops, you put this in, and that's it. Ice Cream Peddler, they finally did it! Free Shaman! They did it! They didn't do it. They didn't do it. Yeah, this is terrible. Very flavorful card, but obviously bad. Just obviously bad. I don't know. Like, you compare it to Anti-Healbot. The effect, if you ignore how you get the effect is really good. 3/5 gain 5 armor against a 5 mana 3/3 gain 8 health. So it's better in literally every way than Anti-Healbot, one of the best healing cards ever printed. But that is such a bad condition, and they haven't supported it in any way. So no. Mashog Announcer, this card's really cool. It's gonna be really frustrating to play against. Lots of stats. But when the effect doesn't work, it's just a 5 mana 6/5, which is basically the same as a 5 mana 5/5. Like, the difference between 5 and 6 isn't that great. So you're just playing a vanilla 5-drop. Which is bad. That's really bad. That's like Stranglethorn Tiger without stealth tier bad. If the effect does trigger, it can be pretty obnoxious. I'm pretty sure it's only legal targets with this one. Like, they can only attack your other minions or your face. Yeah. I mean, this is like the first ogre that's actually good, but I think it's bad, not because the card itself is bad, but because it's so hard to justify playing okay cards. And 5-drops are really hard. Like, it's harder to play an okay 5-drop than it is to play like an okay 3-drop. If this was like a 3 mana 3/3, it would be amazing. But as a 5 mana 6/5, it's just, I think it's just too expensive, too slow. I might be wrong though on that one, because that effect is super obnoxious. I'll give him that. Here we have Balf, but for minions, Balf for minions sounds interesting. It's a lot of stats. Priest likes to see lots of health. Priest likes to defend their minions, so maybe it's a priest card. I don't know. Balf is really bad, but defending minions is better than defending your face, and it's cheaper, and it's not legendary. So, it's a cool card. Crowd Roaster, this card's really exciting. Yeah, this card's really exciting. This is like Blackwing Corruptor and whatever that legendary that killed the legendary was. I can't even remember his name. He was not good. So he's definitely gone now. There's no reason ever to play him. This is so much better. I'd say it's better than Blackwing Corruptor, arguably, even. Just because it is a dragon. Obviously, in Wild, I think you play both, but... and 7's a lot more than 3. Like, you look at a 5 mana that dealt 3 was one of the best cards in old dragon decks. And this is a 7 mana card that deals 7. So for 2 more mana, you're more than doubling the amount of damage dealt. 7 kills almost anything. Kills everything except, like, Lich King. And, I guess, Taunt Druid's things. But, just like all of their things. Anything Taunt Druid plays, it doesn't kill. But other than that, that's a lot of damage. It cannot go face, which is kind of a problem. And the stats are really awkward. But it's a dragon. So it enables your other stuff. And, yeah, if you're playing a dragon deck, which I'm excited to try, you just put these in, and it should be good. Line Cracker, it's like Gazrilla. This makes the Druid War Golem even weirder. Because why wouldn't you just play this instead? That one gets worse if you swing into minions. This one just gets better. Because you're not missing the damage. If I swing into something, I don't miss 5 damage on face. Because I'm going to make it up next turn if I hit him for 10. If I swing on 2 minions, I didn't miss 15 damage. Well, I did. No, I don't know. No, I didn't, because I'm going to hit him for 20. Yeah, so... so it just works out. Like, you want to trade into some things, and then you hit them in the face and they die. It's definitely a highlight reel card. It's kind of hard to make something like this actually work, because it's reliant upon your opponent not having removal and having weak minions, and not just trading away into it. Like, all of those things have to be true. And because Overkill doesn't trigger on your opponent's turn, I believe, from what I've heard, they can actually just trade everything into this. If they're like, well, if they know they're not going to be able to deal with it, they can just be like, well, all right, you can have that. And they just run all their garbage into it. And then you have no way to buff it. So you just have a 5 whatever health is left. Sitting on the board, waiting for them to draw their removal spell or something. So it's not... Yeah, it's very hard to make this work. But, I mean, it's neutral Gazrilla, highlight reel card. Should be cool. Grifta, I look forward to other people playing this card against me. I think it's not something you want to actually play yourself. It's a very... very... sketchy bad effect. I guess it's kind of like it's kind of like the spider tanks we were talking about before, the spellslinger type cards. And you have more control over it, but you don't want to play a 4-mana 3/5 in an aggressive deck the same way you'd be happy playing a 3-mana 3/4. You know? I don't know. There's not like a huge cost of playing this guy, but it can definitely backfire on you, and there's not a lot of upside either. Is the big thing. It's just like a Yeti at the end of the day. There's not a lot of upside. Mojo Master Zihi. Dump on Mecha'thun, dump on Shudderwock. I'm about to sneeze. I apologize for that. Yeah, dump on Druid. Basically, anyone who's trying to get to a certain mana total to do a thing, you just tell them they have to wait a few more turns to do that. And if you're an aggressive deck, you just killed them. Like, you actually just killed them. You made a 5/5, and you delayed their ability to win the game by several turns in a situation where it's usually like, either I win now or I'm going to lose, and then they lose. So cool. It's a very cool card. I actually like that this exists. That we can interact with mana now. But, yeah, it definitely fits into the kinds of decks that I'm not going to be happy losing to. But it's a cool card. I can't hold that against it. The Undertaker. Gain death rattle effects to 3 friendly minions that died this game. 8 mana, 8/5. Very squishy, vulnerable to silence. But you can custom tailor the effects that you have. Obviously, that's what the card says. That's my brilliant insight. You can choose what you play. You Yeah, you could probably build some pretty nasty Undertakers. It'll be really interesting to see what people come up with. There's a lot of death rattle effects, even more in Wild. So it'll be cool to see like what comes with this card. I don't think it's gonna be like the new Star 8 drop or anything like that. It seems too vulnerable for that, but I don't know. I might be wrong. Maybe you can make some really cool like anytime you can combine the effects of other cards like Shutterwalk, it opens up doors for all kinds of crazy interactions that can potentially be game winning. So maybe this guy's got some secrets hidden in him. I haven't spent too much time looking at things. I was just like, oh, death rattles are cool, and left it at that. I haven't really done my homework on this guy, so I don't know. I actually don't know how good he's gonna be. Hopefully be pleasantly surprised. Undasta, big ol' 7/7 rush beast, summons more beasts from your hand. Has a home in Death Rattle Hunter already, which has like the Kathrena package. This just makes that package even more powerful, even more consistent, even cooler than before. It's just a good card. Not much else to say there. And it could probably fit in other decks as well. Like, just as a rush minion, just a 7/7 rush, even for 9, is pretty reasonable. It's not good. It's not, like, great, but it's reasonable. And then if you get the trigger on anything big, then that's just crazy. Hakkar is really weird. So the Corrupted Bloods are... You put them in your opponent's deck. You put them in both decks. And when you draw them, you take 3 damage, and then you shuffle 2 more in, I believe. So you want to play this when they're like, they have very few cards in their deck, and then they draw a bunch of them, and they die. It doesn't. I don't believe it goes infinite if they're out of cards. Actually, I don't know. So the first one definitely wouldn't go infinite. So they would take the damage, and then they'd take the fatigue, and then it would shuffle it in, or does it go? Actually, I don't know if it goes infinite. Hold on, what's the wording on this? Let's look at the token. I don't think it goes infinite. At least not on the first one. Cast when drawn, take 3 damage after you... Yeah, it's after you draw. That's right. So it doesn't go infinite. That's why. It's after you draw. But I think if there's 2... See, it's still ambiguous. So if there's 2, you draw 1, take 3, then you draw again to get the other Corrupted Blood, but then the first one still triggers. Does it do that after you draw 2 more? So does it kill them once they have 2? Does it instantly kill them? I'm not sure exactly how that works. The important thing to take away is that it kills people in fatigue faster. So if you want a way to kill people in fatigue faster, or if you just want to kill Mechathune decks but with 1 card, then this is your 1 card. It's a really cool... It's weirdly expensive for, like, a hate card, but it's the only 10-drop in the set, other than Zul'jin, I think. So that's pretty weird. But, yeah, that's it. We did it. We did it! 1 hour and 12 minutes, not counting the Paladin and Priest videos, which I'm going to jam onto the front of this, and not counting the intro of the cat. Sorry for the really long video. I tried to get through it really fast, but like I said before... I got like a weird repetitive content copyright strike on YouTube, and I didn't want to spam the channel with all these and risk having it be terminated because of their stupid algorithms. So that's it. That's Rastakhan coming out tomorrow, I believe, at 2 in the morning. So be sure to stay up all night and spam the Hearthstone menu refresh. There's no refresh in Hearthstone. I don't know what I'm talking about. It's also not coming out tomorrow. I don't know. I'll see you in a few days, hopefully, with the new cards. And, yeah, it looks like a really cool set. I only did the $50 pre-order this time because I'm about to quit this game because the game's not changing fast enough and it's really boring. But the spoilers almost make me wish that I'd done the other pre-order. I don't know. We'll see. It's a cool set. It's a cool set. You got Mashog Enforcers and shit. It's going to be great. It's going to be great.